Hey friends, I'm so excited that you're with us today. This is Fouch and Friends. Now, this is not on the couch with Fouch because we don't have a couch and I don't have the opportunity to do that anymore. But we want to do some interviews because so many folks are asking for them when we do concerts. Y'all are asking, when are you doing more interviews? So here we go. Fouch and Friends. And today we get the pleasure to speak with Roy Webb. Man, I'm so excited that you're with me today.
Oh man, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
So a lot of folks, most of the time when I do the interviews, I'm still chatting with folks that are still in the music on a
Yeah,
regular basis with a group, still touring. But I always love going back and catching up with some folks that aren't touring anymore, but have toured before. And
yeah,
so I thought it would be so cool for folks to hear from you, to see what you're doing these days, and to talk about some memories that you've had on the road. So let the folks know what you're into right now.
real estate. That's pretty much it. You and I have talked before. I've been in real estate since 2010. I was really, really smart and got into it in the downturn when nobody was buying or selling because I didn't like to eat very much. So I thought, you know what, if I'm going to starve, what's the best way? What's the best job I could get? So I went to real estate. And yeah, but man, God's blessed my life. I mean, he's allowed me to have some success with this. And so I'm really happy with it.
I mean, I kind of wish I'd have went ahead and got my license in 2010 because at this point, hey, if you learn during the hard times, I guess,
Right,
then
man.
you can really grow and really bloom during the little bit easier times, right?
Yeah, I remember I got my license, and when I started at this brokerage here in town, I'll never forget. There was this one lady, and she said, "What in the world?" She's like, "Everybody's getting out of this. What are you thinking?" And I remember thinking, like, you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And but no, man, God's blessed my life. I have no regrets, none at all.
So a lot of folks would recognize you from, I would say, your time playing the piano with
Yeah,
Ernie Haas and Signature Sound.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I know that's not the beginning of the journey for you as far as piano
Um,
playing. So, real quick, give us a little timeline of kind of your years of playing piano and gospel music.
You know what, man? So I live like in between Dayton, Ohio, and Cincinnati now. I live in a place called Liberty Township, Westchester. And growing up, though, I lived just north of Dayton. I lived in a city called Huber Heights. And
Yeah.
my grandfather was a pastor of a church and, blue collar, good country gospel church, just good people. And it was one of those churches where back in the day they would just say, "Does anybody have a song they want to sing? Matt, get up here.
Me too.
Matt,
That's the church
get
I
up
grew
here
up
and
in.
sing Beulah Land, Matt." I'm like, oh man.
I don't know any
So
piano players, but I'll figure it out, right? But you were the
so
guy that
I
they said, get up here and play.
oh absolutely. So I just started, so I would go to all these concerts in at Memorial Hall in Dayton. And
Yeah.
there was a promoter in the area back then, Larry Orrell. Larry Orwell used to promote concerts, and Larry would have like the Kingsmen, Gold City, McCamey's. He would have them, and then the other promoter in the area, his name was Norm Livingston, and he would have like the Cooks and Charles Johnson, the Revivers, and the Pains. And so I would always go to these concerts, right? And I remember, but the one of the main concerts I went to was at a church in close to Cincinnati called Landmark Baptist Temple,
Yeah.
and that's where I saw the cathedrals, the Kingsmen and the cathedrals. And after I saw them, and I saw Roger and I saw Anthony, I was like, man, I want to do that. And so I started playing when I was about 15
Okay.
and just started playing by ear. And, it was just a different time back then. I think nowadays there's so many tools and resources that really, if I was 15 now with all these resources and tools that people have that they can learn to play with, man, it'd be a lot easier. Back then I had like cassette tapes and I would just have to listen and it made my ears stronger, right? So I played at church and then filled in for a couple groups. My sister and brother-in-law sang at church, so I played for them. And then I played for a quartet here locally called Lighthouse. I played for them for probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, Weekend Warriors.
Yeah.
And if you're out there now and you're a weekend warrior, man, I have so much respect for them because I can't tell you how many times our bus would pull in at like 3 in the morning on a Monday morning, and I would go home and sleep for like an hour, and and then get up and go to work all day,
Yeah.
right? That's a different calling, man.
Yeah.
And so, but I was younger and really wanted to do it. And then that's where I met Doug Anderson. And right, I before I left that group, we did a concert with Ernie Haas. Ernie did a solo date with us, and it was in Franklin, Ohio, at a Baptist church in Franklin. And I'll never forget, man. Ernie, he just liked us, and we liked him. We talked about basketball and all this stuff, and then um, next thing you know, he was starting a group, and a few months into the group, they made some changes, and I came along, and the rest is history. And it was a wild, crazy, fun ride. It was
Yeah.
fun.
How many years were you with them?
I was with them for let me see, 3 to 07, probably 4 years.
Okay.
And
Five
but
years.
it was like the fastest. I mean, it was like being on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
It really was, you know. I mean, because we started. I mean, you were around at that time. We started at. Uh, I mean, kudos and looking back, man. A lot of respect to Ernie. I mean, he basically took four guys that nobody knew and like changed the game. I mean, and I think the one thing that I learned about Ernie the most from traveling and living with him and being with him and watching him work and everything was, number one, he was relentless. He was a very, very, very hard worker. And but the biggest factor uh, that separated him was he was fearless,
Yeah.
fearless,
Hmm.
like fearless. And so when you have a leader like that, I mean, you're ready to just do whatever, right? Because you're like, because he'll go with you. Like he would never ask us to do anything he didn't do. So
Right.
he was willing to do. So it was interesting, man. I'll never forget. We we had one Gaither date on the books. One Gaither date. It was Gaither used to do this big New Year's Eve thing in Charlotte, North Carolina called Jubilate. So I joined them in like September. Ryan came along in like October. Tim Duncan was there and Doug was there and Ernie. And we had this one Gaither date, and it was New Year's Eve in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're all nervous, but at the same time, we're all excited because like we're fans.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
fans of the music. Like we're Gaither vocal band fans. And there's Penrod and there's David Phelps and there's Mark Lowry and there's Russ. And we're just like, oh my gosh, we're here. You know, the Isaacs were there, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget that night. Wesley Pritchard was with us that night. And we go, and you know how when you're sitting next to the stage, the pit on the Gaither shows, they used to put the order up on the sub. They like had it typed out and they had the list of like who's going on. And I figured we'd be going on second or third. And Bill put us right before intermission. And Ernie said,
Oh.
wow, that's the old cathedral spot. That's
Mm.
when the cathedrals used to go on. And so he he leaned over and he told us exactly what we were going to do. And he was like, we're going to open up with Glory, Glory, Clear the Road. We're going to do this. Then we're going to do Stand By Me, which always hype people up. He said, and then we're going to do Oh, What a Savior. And then the most important part, he said, Roy, when we're done with Oh, What a Savior, hit the reprise for Stand By Me. We're going to go right into it. And I said, but I don't know if we're allowed. He goes, we'll just ask for forgiveness later, because he was fearless. And we did it, and it just blew the roof off the place. And the rest, you know, just went from there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Well, I mean, my first NQC was 2004.
Oh, okay.
And I had just joined with Sold Out Quartet in May of that year. So as a 21-year-old guy just coming into the industry, first time at NQC, never traveled with a group before until that time. And I'm coming into this and I see Ernie Haas and Signature Sound up there in the
Yeah.
little short ties
Oh,
and
yeah.
taking the jackets off
Yeah.
and everything. And I'm like, that's cool. I
Yeah.
want to do that. That looks like a lot of fun, you know, and then just to watch that just kind of explode for you guys. It was cool seeing that happen, but I can't imagine being on that ride at the
It
same
was pretty
time.
wild. It was, I'll always be grateful and thankful that I was part of that. I mean, some of the best times of my life were during that time. And it was just, it was, I don't, sometimes I look back, I'm like, that really happened.
Yeah.
Like that really, like we did stuff that like nobody had really had done. And it was just like we were busy all the time, always recording. And a lot of that goes like that's what I say, Ernie's work ethic, man. He just would not stop. He would
Yeah.
not stop. And I just remember him saying, man, we're gonna ride this till the wheels fall off. We're just gonna grind. And we did.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked and worked and worked. I mean, we were always in studio recording, always looking for songs, always working. I mean, here's what people don't understand is so we would record ourselves like on video. We would record ourselves
Rehearsing.
the whole show, the whole concert. Then we would come on the bus and we'd watch it. And we just called it game film. And so we'd be like, okay, so, and he'd be like, Roy, when you do that, you need to emphasize, when you tell that joke, emphasize this word. I'd be like, there it
Mm-hmm.
is. Doug, do this. Ryan, maybe walk out a little bit further. And so we did this all the time. And so, but when you have four unknown guys,
Yeah.
right? And so we were like, okay, let's do it. And so we were coachable and we did it. And the freedom that he gave me with just saying whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, was like, he trusted me with that. And
Yeah.
we sang with my first night doing that. I was scared to death. I'd only been with him a short time and we were in Michigan at some big church and Greater Vision was there. And I was such a fan of Gerald's that we were backstage and I was just talking about how I used to come see him with the Dumpling Valley boys at Memorial Hall and, cracking jokes and he told Ernie, man, you need to put a microphone in front of that guy and just let him say whatever. And so he did that night.
Wow.
And the weird part is the audience didn't know I was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying stuff. They're, light chuckles. Uh-huh.
Right.
Who's the weirdo at the piano? And so, but then it caught on and then it just kind of became a thing.
Yeah.
And so, and that all gets thanks, Ernie, for letting me do it.
Yeah. Well, I saw online recently you participate. A couple of things I've seen you post online recently. One was you participated in a comedy thing. And I feel like that kind of goes along with what you're just talking about with sitting at the piano,
Yeah.
right? But I
Yeah.
also saw you recently post I thought it looked really cool. It was like a little USB, like it looks like a piano,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Hold
got
on.
your music on it or
I
something that
got one
you've
because
recorded.
I'm shipping these out. I just dropped it yesterday. So, and we'll talk about the comedy thing in a minute, but I got these. You can see it. It's a little
Okay.
keyboard. It's a little USB.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's got all 5 of my recordings on it. So there's like 77 songs, 2 hours, 55 minutes of music, all on one USB. You can find it at roywebbmusic.store. Here's the thing though. I've only got 50 of these and I think I sold like 20 last night. So they're $40. It's got, like I said, 77 songs. It's all in this USB. So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
And people are, because I'm keep getting hit up for music and it's just easier just to put all in one USB and say, here it is. Right.
I need to find like a bass clef and put all my music on that,
Yes,
Like,
that's
there
a
you
good
go.
idea.
But
But yeah,
the comedy thing, like,
comedy thing's wild, man. So there's been a thing in Cincinnati called Last Realtor Standing. And it's like a last comedy standing thing, last comedian standing or whatever.
for realtors.
And it's realtors. So this is how crazy it is, man. So they basically, you kind of have to try out to enter. And then once you do it, once they accept you, then they pair you up with like a real local comedian and you kind of like write jokes and do all that stuff, which was fine. So I won it in 21. I won it back in 2021. And then a few weeks ago, like last month, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just won the Battle of the Champions. So I just won it for everybody who's ever won. I just won that one.
Wow.
But here's the funny part. The funny part is they're telling me, okay, so let's write jokes, and it's fine because I can do that. The weird part, what they don't tell you is uh in 21, I had to go every Tuesday night to this place close to downtown Cincinnati, starting at 9 o'clock at night, and it was just an open mic. So you walk in, there's a blank piece of paper taped to a post in this restaurant, and you just sign your name on it, and everybody gets 5 minutes. So you walk in, and basically I had to go in there and just try my material out that I was working on in front of 60, 70, 80 other people, and half of them are trying their material out. And it was
Right.
just rough, man. It was basically the comedy world of, Matt, get up here and sing Beulah Land. I'm not prepared for this. Okay, I'll do it. Right. So
So, so I, I'm trying to connect sitting at the piano,
yeah,
feeding off of what's happening because as you know, and a lot of folks maybe know this, maybe a lot don't, but when you have that freedom as the person in the group that's allowed to just off the cuff be funny,
yeah,
Scott Howard had that
yeah,
freedom with Legacy
yeah,
5. Um, that's when a lot of the best, most humorous stuff happens.
yes.
But with comedy, it's like you're writing jokes. Is there any connection there where it seems like comedians would do well off the cuff, but it's
Some of
almost
them
like they
don't,
got to
man.
have it planned out too.
Yeah, because with Ernie, what we would do is he would just say whatever you want, which, really, you're giving me carte blanche just to do whatever. And so I would be thinking all through the day and through our set, I'd be like, okay, I could say something there, say something there. And then if something really hit while the audience is laughing, he would be like, we're doing that again tomorrow. Like he'd pull his mic
Yeah,
away and say, remember that. And so
yeah,
I'm trying to remember this, because we never had a set list. Let me take that back. We had 2 set lists in the entire time that I was there that we followed. And they were for both the Gaither videos that we did when I was there. That was it. Outside of that, I can't tell you how many times we're walking. Ernie's literally looking at me before we walk out backstage. And he's saying, no matter what happens, we're opening up with Plan of Salvation. And I'm like, okay. And we're running out there, make welcome Ernie House signature sound. And he goes, glory, glory, clear the road. And I'm like, here we go. Number 11. So it's just how it worked. With comedy, I'm way better off the cuff, probably. So so having, it's weird because, do you know who John Christ is?
yeah.
So he came to town and I met with him, and I was talking to him and I said, how do you remember, okay, I'm doing this bit now, but in the back of your mind, are you thinking like, yeah, I'm going to go do this bit if this doesn't work, and then this bit? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of what I do. He's like, I just kind of have it like, okay, this usually works. That didn't work, but maybe this will work the whole time. It's kind of just like a good MC would do, right?
Right, right.
Like, okay, the crowd didn't like Matt's song. They don't like anything Matt's singing tonight. Maybe it's just Matt. No. And so,
Rude.
yeah, Matt, just go on the bus. It's fine. We've got
Yeah,
it.
I'm good tonight, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Everybody likes the bass singer, man. It doesn't matter. It's, yeah, everybody loves the bass singer. It's funny. When I did those dates last year with Daly and Vincent, we did a date where we opened for Alabama, and there's 13,000 people there, and Aaron McCune, who I know you've had on here, he goes out like on the third song and just smashes some low G's, and these people in the audience lose their minds. I mean, it's
Right.
funny. Southern gospel music fans, they're the same, but they see it, they hear it a lot.
Yeah.
To the general public, they're just like, what planet is this guy
Yeah.
from? You know, it's
Yeah.
wild.
It's funny. You're right. With the folks that come to hear you regularly, the folks that hear quartets regularly, the high tenor and the low bass is just something they're accustomed to.
Yep.
It's been happening for
Yep.
60 years now, right?
Yep.
The tenor slides up or whatever, the bass slides down, and then you got the filler.
Yep.
And that's just what they're used to. They like it, they love it, they enjoy
They
it.
want.
But when you go to a new crowd that is not used to it and you do it, they typically they're like eyes get real wide and they're like looking at the people around them or they're nudging somebody like, what is up with that?
That is
Like
crazy.
it's totally different. And they absolutely love it.
They do. It's and what's funny is when I would play and I'd look and Tim Duncan would start like burying a note. And I know you see this. This would always just make me laugh. There's always a guy like on the first, second, or third row who, while you're singing the note, is like, and they're always looking like, yeah, I got that.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
do that. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Really,
Yeah.
really, really, Earl. How about
Yeah.
you come up here and give it a shot there, Earl?
Well, and he's
You
the
know
guy that
Beulah
comes up
Land,
to you.
Earl. Get up here.
He's the guy that comes up to you at the end of the night and was like, I was singing right along with you.
Yeah, he tries to bass voice you. Hey,
Yeah.
man, he gives you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, buddy. All right, yeah, we saw that a lot. Nobody ever does that to the baritone in the lead.
No.
I mean, it's
No.
just,
What about the piano player?
yeah, not really. We don't. I mean, people. What was weird was, people, people would be so. I almost felt like they didn't even care that I played the piano, right? They just wanted to hear some funny stuff.
Yeah.
And even the weirdest thing, man, even after they would hear the same joke like 5 or 6 times, they laugh just like they would bring people to the concert with them just to for the experience,
Yeah.
just to get this experience. And that was really cool, man. That's a pretty humbling thing now looking back. That's a really that's cool.
So take a few minutes here. We got just a little bit more time left for
Yeah.
this. Take a few moments. We've talked signature sound, and you're doing real estate. So hey, guys, if you know somebody
And
in the
since now you're
Cincinnati
dating.
area that needs to buy or sell, let
Well,
Roy know. If you know
mhm,
somebody in Kentucky that needs to buy or sell, of course, you know me. So
absolutely.
yeah, hit me up. But just talk a little bit about. I'm sure a lot of folks that followed from back then. Your family is grown up, your kids are
Oh
grown
yeah.
up now. A lot has changed with that. So just talk about your family a little bit, let
Yeah,
them know
man.
what's going on the family side of
Sure.
everything and share that.
Yeah. So my incredible wife, Jamie, we've been married. May was 30 years. 30 years, man. So we're empty nesters now. It's pretty wild. We've been empty nesters for a couple of years. So she's still a nurse. She's got her master's in nursing at a children's hospital
Wow.
here in Cincinnati. My daughter Mallory is married. She got married a couple of years ago, and to my son-in-law Miles, who's awesome, and couldn't have picked a better guy. And they are expecting.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
yep. So in March 22nd is when she's due. She's going to give us our first little grandbabies. It's a boy. And so that's right during March Madness. So we have season tickets to Kentucky basketball. And I told her, here's the deal, if Kentucky's playing, you might just have to hold it. Like, so she didn't laugh like we're laughing. She didn't laugh. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think that's because she knew you were serious.
yeah, so I was. So we're excited about that. And then my son Braden, like I said, my daughter Mallory, she's a nurse at Children's too with my wife. And my son Braden works for a really good company here in Cincinnati. He bought a house this year, and pretty funny story with that. My daughter and son-in-law bought a house a couple years ago. I helped them with that. And then the house next to her, next door to my daughter, became available. The lady who lived in there, unfortunately, she passed away. That lady, this is a crazy story. That lady lived in that house 46 years.
Hmm.
Her brother, that lady's brother, lived across the street from her. So after she passed away, he let one of his friends move in, and he lived in there for a few months. And then about this time last year, my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, Mike's going to need some help. He's probably going to sell his house. That house, that was his sister's, because that guy's moving out and he hasn't bought or sold a house because he's lived in his house 47 years. I said, I'll help him. I go and look at the house, and I said, I might have somebody who might want to buy it. And I tell my son, and he's like, I don't know how I feel about living next door to my sister. I'm like, well, here's the deal, dude. Either you're going to buy it or your mom and I are going to buy it and we're going to flip it. So he bought a house that he lives next door to his sister. They love it.
Wow.
His brother-in-law is one of his best friends, so they hang out all the time. She cooks for him, so it's a pretty good setup. Yeah,
Have your
man.
sister cooking for you. That's
Yeah,
nice.
man. He's got it made. So our family's growing. We're really, really excited about that. God's just blessed our life, man. I have no words for it. He's just blessed our life.
Awesome, man. Well, any last thoughts for the folks that you want to share before we say goodbye to them?
Just keep going out to concerts, keep supporting these people. What they do on every weekend is not easy. I mean, this is, you guys see the hour and a half on stage. Um, what you don't see is the other 22, 23 hours of trying to sleep while you're going 70 miles an hour down the road, trying to stay in contact with your family, missing ball games and parties and stuff like that. But yeah, just keep praying for these guys, keep supporting them, and yeah, that's it. Just stay in touch. If you want to find me, you can find me on Facebook. Like I said, if you want to buy this USB, it's roywebbmusic.store. And yeah, Matt, thanks again for having me, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's been great to catch up,
Yeah,
share some memories from that time
yeah,
you were out on the road, and I appreciate your time today. And I know the folks have enjoyed hearing from you and hearing what's going on and what has been
yeah, man.
happening with you the last several years.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me again. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Hey,
All right.
thanks y'all so much for joining us for Fouch and Friends. You can subscribe to the channel, like on social media, and you can hit Roy up on social media as well. As always, God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.
See y'all.